Howdy folks, it's your friend Fishing with Dom. Hope you're doing well. Today I've got something cool for you. Well, I think it's cool. You better think it's cool. Just joking. I'm going to talk to you today about jig fishing, specifically bass jig fishing. Even more specifically, bass jig fishing trailers. Little things you need to know. Styles of baits I fish with, styles of baits I really like, where I use them, when I use them, and some of my personal favorites, and then I'll even show you one of my all-time favorite baits of all time, if I'm feeling generous enough. I'm just kidding, I'll show it to you anyway. And you probably know it already. First things first, I've got a whole selection of jig heads down here. I have stand-up jig. My good friend Travis Gasper of northern Wisconsin made that for me. Love it, Travis. Looks great. Haven't fished with it yet, but I can't wait to. Your standard Arky style jig heads. I even got a larger style one. I really like this. I forgot who sent me this bait, but fantastic, fantastic bait. Another one my friend Travis sent me. And then I have a 3/4 ounce big old whammer jammer football jig head. I fish this a lot on deeper rocks for smallmouth bass on the Great Lakes. But first things first, there are a lot of different things you can fish on a jig head. There are a lot of things I don't fish on jig heads that a lot of other people do. I have swimming jig heads in there, but I don't really throw swimming jigs all too much. I will from time to time, and I'll put a swim bait on there and I'll pump it, but it's not quite my thing. If you want to talk to somebody about swimming jigs, I have a friend on Twitter. His name is Steve Miller. Good old swim bait Steve, or swim jig Steve is what I call him. He hammers them with it, but I'm sure they work, but it's not quite my thing. Well, when I'm fishing for deeper smallmouth, and I'm using this football jig, one of my favorite baits to put on there is a double-tailed grub. Just like this, looks like a regular Mr. Twister. You're going to thread that bad lad on there, and being 3/4 of an ounce, you can really, really fish this in deeper water. I fished it all the way down into 30 feet before and caught fish. I seldomly bass fish that deep. To put that hook point just up to the collar and break it through, and slide that bad lad up. And when you're scudding along the rocks, stirring up the silt on the bottom, maybe battling current, looks very, very good. Looks very, very solid. Looks like some sort of bug or crawdad flapping through the water when you bring it in. It's got the two tails on it. If you don't have a two-tailed grub, you can put a single twister tail on there, and it would work just fine. Berkeley Havoc used to make one before they stopped making these. Any double-tail grub works very, very well. Double-tail grub's one of my favorites when it comes to putting it on a jig. I like to fish them around rocks, and this is smallmouth candy in a lot of places across the country. But generally speaking, my go-to, I'm fishing the typical Arky style jig heads. I'll fish them through weeds, around rocks and sand, anywhere, absolutely anywhere. And I'll take the jig head with my all-time favorite crawdad bait, the Berkeley Power Bait Chigger Craw. Now they make the Chigger Craw, then they make the Crazy Legs Chigger Craw. Both are fantastic baits. The only difference with the Crazy Legs Chigger Craw, there are very, very long pieces that come off the nose of this bait that are in between the two craws, and they act as these teeny tiny long swimming paddles that extend maybe a half-inch beyond the craws. And I'm going to fish this anywhere I could put this bait and I've caught fish. Just take that Chigger Craw, Crazy Legs or not, and just slide it up on that hook. And you gotta eyeball it sometimes. Some of these baits are different lengths. Don't be afraid to mess up the first time and get it right the second. These baits hold up very, very well. And there you go. That's how I do it. Looks very, very good. Looks very, very natural. Surprisingly, a lot more weedless than you think it is with these weed guards. I know a lot of guys who are new into it, they see how soft they are. They'll still catch stuff. Or they'll see how firm they are, and they'll think the bass won't chomp down on it. But when this is skirting through the grass, along the bottom, being tossed around docks, these bass chomp it and don't let go. Berkeley Power Bait Chigger Craw, love it. Absolutely love it. And if you're fishing around heavy cover, a lot of the times. If you're tunking your jig in isolated cover, target areas, little pockets or areas that might be a location where your jig will break through the mat and you can offer them a meal, there's a few different baits you can use. You can use a beaver style bait, and if you don't know what a beaver style bait is, I'll show you. Got a nice body with a big old beaver tail on it. Now this was the Berkeley Havoc Devil Spear, designed by Mike Iaconelli. They don't make it anymore, but any sort of bait similar to this, got a nice wide stocky build to it, a little bit on the longer side, and this big old fat swimming tail. These are excellent flipping baits too. But when you put them on a jig, since they're so slender, they'll go along with the jig and punch right through heavy cover. We're going to rig this up on this jig right here. Just like so, a little bit longer. Put it up on there. Oh man, this is already looking good. Oh man, I want to go fish this right now. Oh, made it a little too in. Just like that. That way. There you go. And the beauty behind fishing with beaver style baits on jigs like this, no wrong way to fish with them whatsoever. If you want to flip and drop it behind boats a little bit, if you just want to cast it through weeds or along flats and skirt it along there, this will catch fish no problem. Got this big old waggling tail behind it. I'm sorry they don't make this bait anymore. I'm as sad about it as you are. But any bait with a single big old flappy tail works very, very fantastic, especially if you're punching it through heavy cover, dropping it in there, pulling it out, and dropping it in a different location. Great way to go. If you're also fishing heavy cover, one of my favorite soft baits of all time is the Berkeley Havoc Pit Boss. Oh man, not scented, but it has the action. Got all these ribs on the bottom of it. If you have any extra scent you want to add to it, like a Liquid Mayhem, that gel will fit right in those ribs. This has been a tried and true, hardcore tested favorite of mine over the past 5-6 years I've been fishing with it. And I'll fish it on a jig, I'll fish it on a Texas rig, but all in all, this is a great bait to put anywhere. I fish it on a jig a lot, and it is one of my favorites just by doing so. Rig that Bad Lad on there, just like this. Got that Pit Boss right there. Bend that weed guard back a little bit and hang the skirt over just a tad. Boom. Just like that. Now, these colors don't really go together, but this is a fish catching machine. You've got 4 legs coming off of it, an incredible swimming action from these craws and flaps. The Pit Boss is sold in a lot of different places because it catches fish. That's the reason why they still make this bait. It works, it sells, and it sells because it's catching fish. Pit Boss, absolutely love it. This is a fantastic, very, very slender bait. I've jig fished from time to time, and I've actually still jig fish with it on stand-up jigs. Now, I just started stand-up jig fishing about a year ago, and you don't have to specifically use any of these baits. I'm just mentioning some of them, and I know 3 of the ones I'm mentioning in this video are discontinued. But as far as models, look for model baits similar to this, and I'll put some in the description. This is the Berkeley Havoc Slop Craw. Very, very slender, but it's a long bait, and it's got some bulbousy claws to it. These look like look to be about a 1/4 inch thick. Goodness gracious! So when this swims, these claws flap a little bit, and if you're fishing it on a stand-up jig, that bait will sit up just like this, sort of like when a crawfish is in his defensive stance to fight off a predator. Now, I only fish this on stand-up jigs, but I know you can flip this bait 100% no problem. It's very, very slender. It'll go into the heavy cover no problem. But for what I do, I got a whole bunch of these baits. They catch fish. I hope they bring them back someday, but for now, I think I'll be okay until I run out. But I don't stand up jig fish that much. I do fish it from time to time. But there's the jig. If you see, it's got a flat bottom to it, It'll stand up just like that, and these claws will sit just like this. You find different baits to suit your wants and how you're going to fish with it. I could fish any of these craws on a stand-up jig, but this bait, because it's so slender, it's in my honorable mention. Rest in peace, good friend, because I wish they made this more. It was designed by Skeet Reese, and it catches tough biting fish. I really, really dig this bait. Very slender, got a lot of action to it. Very lifelike too. I dig it. I absolutely dig it. And I've got all sorts of baits in the boxes in front of me right here. I buy so many of these Berkeley Pit Bosses that I ended up dumping all the same color into the same bag so I don't have to fumble around looking for it. Drop a little bit of salt in there from time to time. I absolutely love this bait. It's fantastic. I love all these baits. You don't have to fish these exact products. I can't stress that enough. Find any beaver style soft bait like this. Find any slender looking crawfish like this. I know Strike King makes one. I know there's so many you can purchase from Tackle Warehouse or other tackle companies too. But if there's one I could recommend to you that I can't get over enough, it'd be Powerbait Chigger Craw or the Berkeley Havoc Pit Boss. These are fantastic crawdads. But that's me. That's what I use. Can't forget the double tail grub on the football jig head too. Catches fish when I need to seriously make contact 20 feet and below. That's not true. I fish the heavier sizes because I'm fishing so deep and I'm fishing in current from time to time. But that's just me. This is what I use. Find what works for you. Whether or not you rig a whole 5-inch swim bait on there. If you put a single twister tail, sometimes you can just put maybe a 4-inch ribbon tail worm on there and kind of thump it and swim it along. It all works. You just got to find out what the fish want. You got to find out what you want. This is just a video of me sharing what I've used, what works for me, and types of baits that work for me. Not a lot of people in Michigan fish beaver baits whatsoever. I fish them on jigs and I flip them a lot. But find what works for you. Find what the fish want, and you'll be the best fishing guru that you know. Now, that might be true. It might be in your own mind, but whatever floats your boat, I suppose. Well, whatever floats your boat, let's keep your boat floating. No boat safety jokes here. But I'm fishing with Dom. If you have any baits you like to use or baits you want me to try out, let me know on my social media handles: Instagram, Twitter, Facebook @FishingWithDom, or let me know in the comment section below. I really, really dig jig fishing. I'm one of the few big-time jig fishermen on my home lake. A lot of guys, they don't have the patience for it, or they don't have the handle for it. But I love it. It catches fish, and it catches the big fish, too. It keeps the smaller ones away. But your bites, they're quality bites. Big, big, big time. It's a reason why I fish it so hard compared to the wacky rig. The wacky rig, I do fish a lot, but the smaller fish go bananas for it, too. With this, the bigger fish go down to chase it, because this is going to be something that's going to take some effort from their biological perspective for their next meal. It's going to be harder to hunt down, harder to kill, and in the end game, it's going to be a larger calorie intake as well when you think about it. But that's just me. This is just my 3 cents. I'm not going to say 2 cents. I'm going to say 3 because I just dropped some knowledge on y'all. But I hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you for watching Fishing with Dom. I hope you have a great day. So long. Take it easy. Bye-bye.